This is my recap of Southern Charm, Season 1, Episode 7, The Glass Menagerie is Half Full. So we just left the big party with the fighting between everyone. And we open up with Craig and Cameron being very job focused. We see them talking about how they have to get up early and they have to go to work, whereas everybody else in the group pretty much gets to do whatever they want. Cameron's learning more about houses. She, has got a new car so she can, look nice and everything. So there we go with them. Whitney and Patricia talk about the fight that he had with Thomas, and Patricia kind of starts, hinting that she needs grandbabies. She doesn't need him to be married. He can just bring her a child and she'll be fine with that. Thomas and Catherine are talking, and he says, she says, "You're so smart," and he goes, "You're so wise." So, a healthy relationship there. So let's see. Brian, who is his friend, who's Whitney's friend, who has started Planet Hollywood, meets with Whitney and basically says, "Yeah, I'll partner with you, but just you. You got to get rid of Shep. If you want to do this, it's just got to be the two of us." So it sounds like Whitney has some decisions to make. I don't blame him. Partnership is incredibly difficult. You got to really trust the person you're with, and even if you do, and even if you think you got everything ironed out, there's so many ways a partnership can go wrong. If you fail, there's a lot of finger pointing and blaming. If you succeed, there's a lot of finger pointing and trying to take credit. There's pretty much, I really don't know what makes a good partnership. I just know that there's a lot of ways it can go wrong. Anyway, the big thing with this episode is that T Ravs going to have a party at his house, and he's going to talk about his life. And so everyone's there, and he insists that, that Shep bring Danny, and then everyone else ends up coming. JD's there as well, who hosted the last party, and it's pretty much all the same people. So he does this whole big story about his Glass Menagerie, which was, a play, book. I don't know, I read it in high school. Anyway, and he talks about all this symbolism, but he basically tells us the story that he had met a girl, and she was a beverage cart girl, and he'd fallen in love and was head over heels, and they were set to get married. The day before the wedding, he's like, "I can't marry a beverage cart girl," and he breaks off the wedding and sends her a check, buys her off, and she rips it into a million pieces. And it's like, man, girl, you got lucky getting out of the guy who thinks that would be what would solve the situation is money. Sure, we're gonna spend the rest of our lives together, but here's some money. It's an even trade. Anyway, he talks about how his whole life fell apart, and Catherine's not looking happy because here he is going on and on and on and on and on about the great love of his life and how if he found her now and she was single, he'd take her back in a heartbeat. And Catherine's sitting there, and she's certainly not happy. He also takes a moment to take Shep, Danny, and Whitney and kind of throw them under the bus. So that was kind of an awkward moment. And at some point, Catherine gets all over Craig because Craig had said something about her. And she's all in her face. And you definitely feel like you're watching a completely different age group than the rest of the group. Anyway, she's getting all over him. And so he's like, "Well, I'm not the one who slept with 3 people at this table." And she's like, "Who would that be?" And he's like, "You're serious, right? We all know." And everyone else is like, "Er." Anyway, so she basically tries to kick him out of Thomas's house and saying, "You're not welcome here anymore. You're not welcome." And he's like, "It's not your house. You can't kick me out." By the way, Craig is not the most mature either. So anyway, there we go. That was the episode. Pretty dramatic. And I guess we got to see what happens next.